Good morning. My name is Julian Stanley. I work at the European Training Foundation. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking to you a little bit about how to use video in teaching and in learning, what we're calling video pedagogy. So why should teachers think about using video in their teaching and learning? Well, I think the first point is that video pedagogy can engage and inspire and reach out to learners, whether they're young or whether they're old, whether they're in the school or whether they're remote. And research shows that video is incredibly engaging. It overcomes boredom. It makes learners interested. Secondly, video is incredibly effective for teaching of skills and helping learners to practice skills. It gives the opportunity for repeated viewing and for active viewing, because on modern video players, learners can go back, they can view a particular skill, they can view something again, and they can repeat it as many times as they want. Thirdly, video pedagogy is extremely effective at getting learners out into the world so that they can see things which are going on in the countryside, in a factory, in a business, in some real situation. It's particularly powerful, therefore, for vocational learning, because it's a great way of taking a slice of the workplace and bringing it to the learner so the learner can indeed study it, observe it, and make sense of it. Fourthly, video is extremely effective at getting learners to reflect upon what they already know and what they can already do. It gives the learner a chance to observe themselves doing something, because they can go back and they can observe themselves, and therefore to see what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what they need to learn next. In other words, it supports formative assessment. And lastly, video pedagogy is a great way of getting learners and teachers and groups to organize and to communicate their knowledge and their practice. It's a more interesting, it's an alternative way of grouping together what they know, of recording it, of having a record, and of communicating it. So it can be used to show off what they know, it can be used to assess what they know. So one of the major uses that teachers can use video is as a tool to support instruction. In this sense, we're talking about a learning situation which is structured, which is controlled by the teacher, where the teacher is in charge of all of the learning, but is using the video as an input, as a learning object from which people are going to learn. In this situation, for example, a teacher could show a video and then pause it to insert questions. Or at the end of the video, they could set tasks. Or they could introduce some activities which could take as their starting point the video. The video can be used synchronously if a class is going on, to create a context, to provide rich information, or it may be used asynchronously. In other words, while the teacher is not there, but the learning is going on in another place at another time, and the video can be used to engage the learners, to provoke them, and to provide a source of knowledge. I think this is particularly important because one of the challenges of asynchronous learning is that learners are often not very engaged. It's difficult for them to sustain their commitment to learning, and because video is powerful, it can help to overcome that problem. At the bottom there, you see an example of a factory, which is a still from a video, and that could be used to set some questions, to invite the learner to watch and to re-watch, and to perhaps solve a problem or to raise some questions. In other words, it takes the learner into that factory for their learning. Video has also got great potential as a material for individual learning. This is where learners are using video independently, perhaps to learn facts or perhaps to learn processes. In this situation, it's not the teacher, but the learner which is controlling the process. Again, as we said already, video is particularly effective at skill development because the learner can view something and then can try it out themselves and then can check what they're doing against what is done in the video. So it's very good for behavior. For example, video can be used to challenge the learner to repeat a performance, a kind of sporting performance, such as, I don't know, serving in tennis, or something you might do in a foreign language, such as repeating a certain verb. Or it can be used for close and critical listening and observation. Can they spot an error in some kind of task? Or perhaps more challenging, they can be shown a particular performance and asked to grade it. Then they can be shown the grade that someone else did, or they can be invited to have a discussion with another learner to try and justify why they graded it in that way. This brings us into the power of video for exploring other people's perspectives, for serving as a basis for discussion. Role play can also be, video can also be used to stimulate role play, where the viewer observes a certain action or sees a certain position being taken and then is asked to continue that outside of the video. So this is a fantastic way in which video helps us to learn about other people and about other people's behaviors apart from our own. Another use of video is as part of something which I would call learning by design. What I mean here is that we set the task for learners of making a video. We ask them to learn in order to make a video, and we ask them to learn while they're making a video. So video is part of a creative learning task. And of course, the great thing about this is it compels learners to work together, to cooperate. So they're learning cooperation skills. It gives them a problem. So they have to gather knowledge, they have to discuss in order to find the solution to that problem. It's expressive. It gives them an opportunity to bring their personalities, to bring their own ideas to solve the problem. And there is no single answer to such a problem. There's more than one answer. So it gives the students an opportunity to find new answers. It's a great opportunity for learning digital skills, for improving their power to communicate, for making good use of time, and for planning. These are all the skills which increasingly learners will need in the future, the so-called 21st century skills, which are going to be relevant to 21st century jobs. Lastly, video can be used to organize knowledge and to communicate it. Rather than organizing one's knowledge in writing, one can organize one's knowledge using video. It's a great way for learners to pull together what they know and to show off what they know and to communicate to others what they know. Not only is it easy to do this, but it's nowadays very easy to communicate knowledge by video because it can be shared so easily. It's a great way of encouraging learners to organize in an effective way what they know, of encouraging them to reflect upon what they know, of getting them to think about their audience. How do they engage their audience? How do they make things accessible to their audience? And it gives them practice, because in communication, there's nothing like practicing your communication in order to improve your skills of communication, to make you aware of what's working and not what's working. How can this be done? Well, students can be invited to make a diary, a video diary, where they speak to the camera and they record what they've done, what has worked well, what has not worked so well, for example, on a research project or on a work experience or on some other task which they had to undertake. Or in the case of video storytelling, where perhaps you tell someone else's story. You interview them, you describe their context, you explain on behalf of them what's happened. Or a video review, where you make a video which reviews a book, or which reviews a film, or which reviews a journey or a city. Therefore, you bring not only your own voice, but also you can show images and communicate experiences. I want to emphasize that what I'm not saying is that teachers should use video for all teaching and for all learning. Far from it. Teachers are going to continue to use traditional ways of talking, of asking questions, of getting students to write, of asking students to read, of group work, and so on. The point about video is that it's one additional tool, and therefore it gives additional variety, it breaks up the routine, it's extremely powerful for particular kinds of learning, such as learning about skills, about learning about the real world, and therefore it's an additional and complementary pedagogy to be combined with other pedagogies. If you're interested in learning more, here are some links. There's an open space platform that ETF runs, where there's a lot of resources about video pedagogy, including lists of actual videos and activities. There's a research report which summarizes the findings of research about what works in video pedagogy. And there's also a couple of handbooks which have been translated into Russian, which describe how video can be used in teaching and in learning, but also how they can be used in teacher development. There's a webinar which you may be interested to see, which is accessible, or you could write to me. That's my email address at the bottom. Now, I'm now going to hand over to some colleagues, and they're going to talk to you. They're going to show you in much more practical terms how you can edit video, how you can add questions to video, and also some other online tools that you can use to improve the quality of your teaching and learning. Please do try out video in your lessons. Have a go. I assure you that it will be fun, that you will find it engaging, and I promise you that your learners will be pleased and will be excited to try out some learning using video. Thank you very much for your time, and have a great summer school.